Welcome, everyone, to the official debate section.
This debate is being conducted under health and safety protocols designed by the Cleveland Clinic.
Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Incendiary, where we're going to be discussing, can indie publishers successfully collaborate? And of course, we'll have a look at Fund My Comic, whose creator is here tonight as our special guest, Luke Stone. Hey, welcome, Luke. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me tonight.
Yeah, you bet. We've got panelists SmilingBandito and Blue Samurai Zero with me.
Hello.
And we have a special guest panelist filling in for Jake. We've got Randall Bishop. How are you doing, Randall?
Hi, everybody. I'm doing great.
We'll be talking about Randall's contributions to indie collaboration in just a bit too, as he'll be joining us in the debate.
Other than putting other publishers' kids through college, judging by the collection behind his head.
Right.
Yeah, similes. These are all X-Force -- 1s behind me.
Oh, awesome. We will be putting somebody through college then. In our
a little bit of echo, so somebody needs headphones or something.
Or mute the YouTube playback.
Stand by for that. I'll see if I can fix that.
With the delay on it, it's so delayed. I think it's just the YouTube playback coming through. I just mute mine.
Possibly.
Yeah.
In case it was
is Randall that guy we saw at the bus stop on the way by, on our way here to the show?
That's right. We just picked him up and said, "Hey, dude, you want to hop in?
You want to be on our YouTube show?"
He and I were discussing this topic in Twitter, and I thought, hey, you know what? SmilingBandito said, let's involve him, and I said, yeah, let's bring him on the panel. Why not? So he's here to help us debate this topic. So what we're going to do is because Luke is our special guest tonight, we're going to ask Luke, which side of this debate would you like to be on? Do you think indie publishers can successfully collaborate?
I'm going to do like I normally do, and I'm going to take the middle road on that one.
You can't take the middle. It's got to be.
I can't? Okay.
No, we've got to debate this.
All right. Well.
All right. Wait a minute. You accidentally named the show my only line in the show, which is to say what the question is. So I'm gonna give Luke 2 outs on this. One way.
All
hey,
right.
Luke, the topic for tonight is, can indie publishers successfully collaborate? Collaborate being defined either of 2 ways, and you can argue each of them separately. One collaboration is just simply working together to make publishing happen. The other is collaborating to make a crossover be published. There you go.
Okay. All right. Yes, it can happen.
Okay, so he's taking the side of yes. Luke?
In both avenues. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes on both avenues. As long as the people running things aren't dicks.
Well, that may that may contribute to some of the problems we may be bringing up.
Right.
Yeah. So, Randall came into the show with the idea that he agrees with Luke on the topic, where he says yes, indie publishers can successfully collaborate. So, Luke, who would you like to be on your opposing side?
Ooh.
So you got to pick 2 people of the 3 remaining panelists: myself, SmilingBandito, or Blue Samurai Zero.
All right. Now, I know Blue doesn't care to argue.
Someone hasn't been watching the show.
I'm being totally facetious. Yeah, I'm gonna say let's do Blue and Dojo. I'd like to go against Blue and Dojo on this.
Ooh, I get the host.
So you are the moderator, Bandito. Awesome. So
actually, we're already arranged on the screen correctly.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that kind of works out. Huh? And hey, Paul is with us tonight. Hail, Paul. Good to see you. Nicholas Gear is with us. And, of course, a couple of hellos from some of the panelists. So thanks for those of you who are watching. Appreciate you.
All right. So, Luke, I will we're ready to start, right, Dojo?
Yes, sir.
I can dig into this. And
you bet.
All right. Luke, I'm going to let you create an opening statement based upon how you feel publishers are able to work together in the best capacity possible.
Feelings.
in the best capacity possible. All right. Yes. I think crossover events are probably the most simple and least intrusive to their business model way of being able to do to work together. You know, let's say for instance a multi-publisher crossover, like my friends over at Starcross did recently with Biblical Proportions, where they've got characters from multiple different publishers joining together for a kind of a one-off event. Very nice way to be able to cross-promote one another. I think another way to do that is to, when you're working multiple campaigns, it's possible to do some kind of a shared event, like a crossover cover, like we did a connected cover in the past. So I think the best case scenario, those are primarily, I think, the best ways that you can be collaborative between two publishers. Normally when you start getting into the secrets of, like, hey, I use this printer, or this is, you know, my vendor, people start to get a little, I don't know, they get a little protective of their art teams and their vendors. And so it takes a little more of a, I guess I don't want to say the word intimate, but I guess that is a proper word for it. I mean, intimate makes it sound like they're shacking up, but
Well,
they're not. But
before you start talking yourself out of a point, I'm going to let Brian jump in here.
Sure.
Yeah, what do you think the pitfalls are?
I think if we're talking about a crossover between just characters or maybe titles, sometimes that gets into a bit of a mess, because the characters, if one of the two publishers, for example, is writing the story and using the other publisher's character in the story, there can be some issues with, well, you know, that character wouldn't have said that, or wouldn't do that, or that's too goody two shoes, or that's too walking the line of, you know, anti-hero. So there's an issue there with really getting to know one another's characters and portraying them correctly.
Okay. Randall, this is a good opportunity for you to jump in. Where do you think the success in indie publishers collaborating lies?
I think the 3 times that I've done it, the big advantage was that you're getting your character or your book in front of an audience that has probably never seen it before, and you're doing it with somebody who has been dealing with a similar problem set. Like so in an ideal world, like, your character is represented the way it would be were you 100% in control of it, and it appeals to the types of people that you would sell to anyway, in this new group of people, and then you end up growing your audience. But there's just so many factors in terms of marketing that it can be very challenging to promote it equally. So, like, you know, one person is inevitably going to be the heavy on when it comes to time to promote the book, and you just have to have a good understanding, you know, up front, whether it's formal or informal, it doesn't really matter, as long as you're not doing something out of bounds that the other creator or the other publisher, you know, has said, hey, you know, I'm not okay with that. Then sometimes you got to give up a little control if you want something to happen in your book that the other properties just, you know, that it's not in line with what their goals are.
Sounds like he's kind of supporting my point. I like it.
I'm going to have to stop you before you talk yourself out of the point here too. That was
just that both people grow. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Well, that's a very supportive answer for Luke, and kind of giving Dojo a little bit of credit there too, I think, on maybe on the reach around there. But here to balance out,
Intimate.
yeah,
You're intimate, yeah,
that intimate. And for Brian's intimate partner here, Blue, how do you feel about, because now you're someone that's on the outside looking in. Everyone else that's spoken is creators. They have tried to work with various people on various projects. As someone on the outside who's seen the ups and downs, or who has seen many people working together successfully and unsuccessfully, where do you think the line falls? Is it possible?
I'm assigned to say no. I don't think it's possible. So the real answer is, well, why not? Do you mind me shifting your question like that?
Yeah, go for it, man.
Okay, all right. Because I have to answer no.
I'm only the host. I mean, why would I direct the debate?
Dojo Kun, the karate expert, has beaten me into submission here. So, the one reason it doesn't
beats jujitsu. Is that what you're saying?
Well, if you sneak up behind him, yeah. So anyway, where was I? Oh, you do that to me all the time, man. I had a train of thought, and now there are no tracks. Oh yeah, if one of the problems with collaboration that just makes it not work from an audience point of view is things leak out later about the problems between two creators, where and I'm talking about independent, not on the level of, say, Valiant and Image. We're going to go more independent than that, like the two men with their cameras on. But you find out things like, you eventually find out things like, we don't know who owns what because we're arguing over who owns what, and who gets what royalties and who gets what rights to republish. As a reader, I really don't like finding out that a book I missed is now not going to be reprinted, and I can't get it because the two guys who wrote the book are now fighting, and the one who owns the rights to actually print it isn't going to allow it to be printed. Crap like that makes it not work. So be careful who you're intimate with.
Always.
So,
I'm sorry. Be careful with whom you're intimate. There we go.
Thank you.
So that kind of speaks to the longevity of these partnerships. Luke, what is the shelf life for getting professional or indie developers together?
I have two answers to that. The first one is cut and dry, about a year. The second answer to that is more in depth. It's a year to develop the project and to get it to market. But as far as reprints go and publishing rights and royalties, all of that has to come down to contracts. And part of that first year is, within the first several months, is just communicating not just the creative aspect of it, but the business aspect of it, and making sure that all the expectations from both parties are met, so that they can put that into into some legal language that they can sign, and they can both hang their hat on that, so they know down the road they're both going to have, come hell or high water, or even if they start to hate each other down the road, they have a contract that has them covered.
So what about the contract with the fans? Because once you kind of put something together, there becomes if something is successful, if people want to see more of it, there becomes we sometimes talk about having this contract with the fans where we want to make sure we give them more of what they like. So how does that play into, let's say...
Money's the ultimate lubricant.
Yeah.
Right? I was in a collaborative effort with another creator, and I didn't care for him, and I didn't care for the project, but had the project made money, we would still be working together. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. So, Brian, when you've worked together with various creators, I don't know if you've actually worked with any other producers, but when you've worked together with other creators, does the friction create problems in the project itself that are not able to be reconciled by money?
I think so. I think some of us are in this industry, whether it makes money or not. Somebody's asked me before, if you break even or even take a little bit of a loss, would you still be making comics? And Yeah, because, right from the start in 2014, when I started publishing, it was completely out of pocket. I hadn't discovered crowdfunding for years. So obviously I wasn't doing this to become rich. Now, would I like to? Absolutely. But your question was, if it was just up to money to keep it going, I'm going to have to say no, because I don't want to keep working with someone who I'm opposed to, or who makes doing so a chore rather than enjoying it, because that's the only reason I'm doing this, is because it's something I've enjoyed for nearly 50 years now, and not publishing, but comic books in general. And I wouldn't ever want it to be a chore, because as soon as it's a chore, I'm going to stop.
That really speaks to us doing this show. You must love it, because we aren't even getting a dollar off of it. So.
But what Lucas said is it's not that one's principles have a price. No, look, I'm not going to say that about you, even in jest.
Right.
It's that one's tolerances have a price, and if that price isn't being met, then the tolerances overrule.
Yes.
Okay.
My tolerance has a price.
Your soul, on the other hand, no. Anyway,
No, not a chance. Yeah.
Priceless.
Sorry, I thought Blue's answer was going to be longer there. I went and got some coffee. So Randall,
I try, man. I'm not awake.
Yeah,
I'm
you
off
claim you only get.
I have to get blood work done. So.
Yeah, you claim you only get one line in the show, and then as soon as we open the mic up to you. But so Randall, where have you had to draw the line? Where you're just like, I can't work with this.
Oh gosh, thankfully I have not had to draw the line yet. There's been times when it's been profitable, and then times when there's no money. And I think there is you can operate without money to a point. Your passions can carry you past
Don't
that.
we know it here on Incendiary?
Credit cards have limits. So just like businesses, we have shutdown points. If you go too long without making money, or without some kind of new apparatus to keep the lights on, then yeah, it will fail. But ultimately, I think these things don't fail all the time, or why would we do them? There's the biggest indictment against collaborations always failing are people like, well, the Bedrock, the Stan Lee and Jack Kirby team, and there's lots of problems in those two guys' relationship through the decades, but they still, of course, they were surrounded by a lot of other creative geniuses, but
you bring up an interesting point with that. It seems like comics has always been fraught with problems in collaborating on various projects, and sometimes it seems like these projects more escape than get published.
I call it in the Army. I call it ego management, because you're either subjugating an ego, or you're I don't know if the right word's coalescing or not, but the egos have got to be in alignment, or have reached some kind of agreement that allows progress to happen. And if you can't manage that, if you can't get to that point, and a lot of people can't, and I would say probably the majority can't get to that point, then
Why do you think that is?
Human failings, I guess. This is
let me kick it over to. Yeah, let me kick it over to Dojo, who's opposed to the whole idea of ever collaborating with anybody. Dojo,
Yes.
Why do you think most people? No, do you think there's more success or more failure in these collaborations? And give us a reason for that.
Okay, I'm going to go with more failure. And one of the ways we can look at that is, when Image first came to be, these guys were mavericks. They set aside maybe their differences for a while. They've got all these great creative IPs. And for a long time, it was cooking with gas. I mean, those guys were the big deal, the big cheese. They didn't necessarily outsell the big two, but they were certainly, the belle of the ball for quite a while. But there came a point where their egos got in the way. And I think the word that Randall was looking for was acquiesce. You're either subjugating someone or acquiescing to someone. And that started happening a lot under the Image banner. So a lot of them left. Then you got Full Bleed comics coming out. Then you've got Top Cow comics coming out, no longer under the Image banner. Also, too, you're right. I didn't become part of a publisher's collaboration because the one I was invited to, which will remain nameless because I'm not about to be nice about this, they thought their ideas were far bigger than their capabilities. And I just felt that they were trying to do so much all at one time that it was more than they could manage. And it turned out that was prophetic because, it's not working for that group, if you will. So there's that instance. And then there's another one where I'm actually obliged not to talk about that Luke is intimately aware of. And in that instance, it was yet another person who was too big for their britches. There was far too much going on, and they couldn't manage it. So what that comes down to then is, do you have a certain amount of trust in the credibility and ability of the person who's going to sort of helm the overall publishing banner? And I think that for many of us, whether we're pretty, business savvy or not, that's an awful lot to take on, particularly if it's not your full-time job.
Really well said. So let's actually kick it over to Luke here. You have been a part of a catastrophic, apocalyptic failure in collaboration. But I think we can probably talk about that a lot.
Let's talk about that some more. I'm really happy about that.
I'm pretty sure you talk about it a lot, so we'll skip that.
You want to talk about how I almost died too? You want to bring that up?
But why did you inhale that one time? Yeah.
Since you are on the side of being pro collaboration, tell us about the collaboration that you're in now.
Let me start by saying this: comics at its core is largely a collaborative effort, and collaborations are nebulous. Or they ebb and they flow. Partnerships don't always last forever in a collaboration because they're very personal when it comes to the creative aspect. And so your ability to create something great with someone today may lead you to want to create something great with someone tomorrow. That's different than the person you created with today. So that has to be understood in order to understand how really good collaborations work. And collaborations work when you understand that they're not long-term, that they're intended to be for a while both parties are going to benefit from them. Like, for example, the Out of Obscurity anthology that we're working on. This is a bunch of different creators that are coming together from different publishers. The main publishing entity behind it is technically Arrow Comics, but everyone owns and has say of their own creation. But we all understand what the purpose and the intent of it is, and we all understand that all we're committing to is kind of this collaborative effort. And if it does well, we'll do a volume 2, volume 3. But we understand that we also want to take those things that we've created, and it may spark an opportunity to create with other people for other things down the way. So I mean, trying to commit to Image because it's because that's the company that you started with doesn't always serve you well when you can go off and start a mad cow, right? So I mean, sometimes
As
the things
to
are
a top cow. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I mean. A top cow. I'm sorry. It's late for me too.
I like Mad Cow. That's cool.
I do like Mad. I like Mad Cow. That's fine.
I
was
thought
thinking
you were
Mad.
just in on it. I was just
I got Mad Cave and Top Cow mixed up. So, but when you can do those things, because honestly, things in life they change, and you may not be as ambitious as a Kirkman is, where you want to go or what you aspire to do may not work with your current collaborators. And
So, Luke, this collaboration you're talking about, this Out of Obscurity, is it an anthology where each of you will be contributing a separate story that is in an independent universe?
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly what it is. So this is it's basically, whatever money you would pay to advertise your business, try to get gigs on Fiverr or whatever. We're just taking all those efforts and we're putting them into practical use, into stories that people can enjoy, using a very obscure public domain characters and stories, putting them together in a single book, using it as a collaborative commercial for our skills.
That's where the merchandise market comes into play.
Right, yeah. And so we know that we're working out this is what the printing is going to be, and this is how long you have before you can take your work to your next printing opportunity. But yeah, so all that stuff gets worked out in there, and through there, who knows, we may find people that want to publish with Arrow, or I may want to do some art for another company here or there. It's not it's the collaborations are the fun part, and they don't always have to be long term. I think when we put creative collaborations in a box like that you can never break up. It's not a marriage.
So what you're saying, I think, is when both parties go into the one night stand knowing it's a one night stand, you're less likely to get stalked by a psycho girlfriend afterwards.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Luke learned to love again.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you guys feel about the logistics of everything? Like, how much of this is a hindrance to the collaboration? Randall,
Can I speak to that one, Bandito?
Okay, yeah, sure. Let's start there.
Okay.
Randall, so have an answer ready.
Yeah, one of the things I wanted to talk about is something that Randall alluded to a little while ago, and that was, these agreements, whether they're formal or informal, and I wanted to step all over that because when they are informal is when things can go awry really quickly. I think that in any instance, if you're going to collaborate, even if you guys are best buds, from the get-go, you need to have things in writing. You need to formalize it because, as Luke said, life changes, circumstance change. I just had an artist who, because I posted 3 upside-down smileys to something he said, bailed on me. He said, "Wow, goodbye, Brian," and really came at me. And it was totally out of the blue. And we have a contract. I don't know if I'm going to pursue getting the rest of the work out of him because now
3 upside down smileys, Brian. Why do you have to be like that?
I know, right? I looked it up online. I researched, did I give him an insult that I'm unaware of, and could not find any instance that was bad. It's just silliness.
Well, just because I'm an artist, I have to side with him, I guess. Right?
Oh, okay.
Well, this
I'll take that side of the argument.
Yeah. This actually kind of brings up another point: is how detrimental is actually. Sorry, we can't get to that yet. Randall, if you wanted to comment, because Brian's stepping all over your.
It's fine.
Reclaim your time.
Well, first I wanted to say I liked what Luke said about what Brian said about turning it on. He sort of turned it on its ear of like, well, yeah, without that colossal breakup of Image, we would never have gotten. He said Mad Cow, but Top Cow.
Cow, yeah.
And I don't know if Malibu was an offshoot of that, or but I know like Leafeld had us do. We wouldn't have gotten those other things. So there's an art and a science to knowing when to dip your toe into a collaboration and when to jump in with both feet. And I don't think you ever want to jump into a collaboration without a formal agreement where you're in deep for your, like you're signing up for a graphic novel, or something like that. You want to keep things informal at first, but you also want to keep the scale of the project really small, so that if it does end in a colossal fuck up, then excuse my language, but
No problem.
all right. If it does end in failure, at least you're not out too much work. At least you went there, you tried it, it didn't work, and now it's time to move on. And you're not out much resources overall. But without trying that, you never do produce anything new. Like enough years have gone by. I can kind of talk about this more, but the first publisher, I didn't get into publishing by choice. I sort of was, I don't want to say forced, but I sort of fell into it because my publisher moved to another town, and what was a partnership was dissolved pretty much against my wishes. So I was stuck with a story arc that wasn't complete. I had to figure out a way to finish it, and the best publisher I knew was myself. So that's kind of the start of Time Bound for me. But without that, the ugliness of going through that, I wouldn't have been able to produce something more. And those guys went on to bigger, better things too. And it's all water under the bridge at this point. So it wasn't, I wouldn't say a disaster, but more so a growing pain that worked itself out in the end.
That does tie into something I've been holding on to for a while on the no side, because I have to take the hardline no side. But one thing I've noticed among these independent creators, without naming well-known specific breakups where it was just hiring a colorist or inker or whatever it was, but it's that most of these little self-publishers or indie publishers are self-publishers. Most of them are artists, and artists are flakes, man. They get in there like they have business sense. It's a good thing Luke, the artist, does not come from an art background in terms of, like, he had another career. He learned some stuff elsewhere. But no offense, Luke. But artists are just terrible business people, and it shows. If you're not gonna, draw your book and end up delivering your book 2.5 years after promised or something like that, because you're so focused on the business side. If it's not that, then you're going to be pulling shady business crap because you're actually more interested in doing art and you're just skating by on the business side. This is why collaborations don't work, is you take two people who are like that, slam them together, and it just multiplies. Like, it's just not good.
I'm gonna toss something out there, just so it's not quite shitting on artists as much. On
a show called Incendiary. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think most people are bad at business. I just think that most of us grow up without the skills. We aren't taught any of that kind of stuff in school. It's not a natural gift that most people have. You can be super charismatic. You can be gregarious and have all the attention throughout your life and still screw up every opportunity that's given to you. And so it doesn't matter. I just think most people are poor at business and management and that type of stuff. And then when we get to creating stuff, like now that we're in a space where people are independently creating books, whether that be writing or the artwork or anything like that, you have the majority of people being poor business, poor with business. Mm-hmm. And then the majority of the people in this space being artists. So that just goes hand in hand, that the majority of the people in this space are going to be poor business managers. So,
well, I don't want to lob a softball to these guys on the other side, really. But to be quite honest, everyone thinks they know everything about everything. They
yeah, but it's true.
They're the only ones that know it all, right? So a really good collaboration is when you identify your weaknesses and your strengths, and you're able to find somebody who has complementary weaknesses and strengths, so that you can really truly work together. Like, I understand art takes a long time to do.
For sure. Okay? I'll just interrupt you for a second there, because the trick becomes you have to be the sum of your strengths as opposed to becoming the sum of your weaknesses. Right? The team. Yeah, well, the team, you need to become the sum of your strengths as opposed to becoming the sum of your weaknesses.
Yeah, you need to be able to hand off your weaknesses to someone that's a strength to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Instead of trying to do it all yourself. Where collaborations break down is when you're working in a collaboration and you start to think that your weakness is stronger than their strength.
Ooh.
And typically that's not the case. Because there's a lot of people, the reason why they self-publish, or the reason why they do everything themselves, or they only hire things out and they don't have any partnerships, is because they're incredibly arrogant and they think that they're better than everybody else, including their weaknesses. That, yeah, that's one of my weaknesses, but at least I do my weakness better than they do my weakness. And that's it. You have to be very good at self-evaluating in order to work in a collaboration. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think that they can work, because I think there are people that can self-evaluate well. You know, and that's why, you know, like for instance, Todd Altman and myself have partnered together to work on Fund My Comic. I'm not a tech head. I know comics. I have big ideas. I'm an idea guy. Like, that's what I do. And I'm an energy guy. I need somebody that understands the nuts and bolts of the numbers and letters that make web stuff happen. I don't get that, you know? I can learn it. You don't give me enough time, but honestly, I'd rather be drawing pictures, you know? So I partner with somebody that's what they do for a living. Like, that's their everyday. Like, they get up early in the morning and they deal with that. And they get off work and then they can deal with it with our website. So I don't have to fall to my weakness having to be a strength. When it is a weakness, I just fall right over to my partner, and I understand that they understand it better than I do. Now, my goal in every partnership, and I think it should be for everybody, is to be the weakest link if you can. But try your best to all of your weaknesses. Try to learn as much as you can in that area so that you're not sitting there like an idiot when they're talking. Kind of thing, right?
With many of the projects I've had to head up, it's often been said, you know, you want to find people who are smarter and better at the jobs than you are. But I've always found that it is very important to know a little bit about everything, right, so that you can understand the process that the other people are going through with everything that they're doing, right? And then you can trust in the process as well. So
yeah, it does get a little more. Sorry, go ahead.
Not that you have to do their job, but familiar enough that they know you understand when they speak. Is that it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and for myself, I've just found that if I know the direction that they're going, I can trust them that they're making all the right choices that they, you know, for their process that they go through, right? And that they're on the right path. It's not like, I guess the negative side of it being, you have to know when someone's, you know, feeding you a line of bullshit, right? And
right. Trust but verify.
Yeah, exactly, right? And
auditor's credo, yes.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking just because we got two new people, one of them our guests, and one of them the guy we picked up hitchhiking on the side of the road. It might be prudent for us to stop a little bit early just to kind of go over where we can kind of find everybody's work. But if anybody has any closing statements that they want to make or points that they think weren't covered, we can keep this going for like at least another 5 minutes, I think.
Well, I've got a very quick point to make, and that is we were talking earlier about when this doesn't make money, but continuing to do it. One thing I wanted to point out to folks here in the States in particular is you can claim your business losses against your business gains if you're running this as a small business, but you can only do so for 5 years before the IRS says, this isn't a business anymore, this is just a hobby. You've been losing money for 5 years, and they don't allow it any longer. So
why do I feel attacked?
I'm just in year one, technically. So
just wanted to throw that out there for people who are claiming this as a business loss.
Right.
if your business model includes counting on your tax return to survive every year in perpetuity, then that's probably not a good business model.
It's probably not.
You want to tighten it up.
Hey, Randall, before we head to you for your website and Luke for his website, do you find, because Luke's comments I think really boiled down to a lot of humility, knowing your own weaknesses and giving people space to do their strengths, is that has that been your experience in learning over the years?
Well, what Luke said was very sage, and I don't have anything on that level of sagacity to say. So I think that was very well said. I mean, you kind of get worn down doing this if you're pitching your book over and over, especially in a convention setting like we've all been by the Artist Alley, where the guy's just been pitching all day and he's like a robot, just like that.
I've been that guy.
Yeah, I think we all
the
have.
last 6 months.
Why do I feel attacked?
Again?
But I think we either get through that or we don't, or we die a horrible death. I don't know. I'm not sure I'm through that yet.
Or you try and you fail at that too.
But I think there's a lot to be said for tenacity, and you just have to, if it's what you love, if play is your work, then you don't work a day in your life. The old saying.
Right.
That's kind of where I come from with a lot of this. It's like I enjoy this stuff. Sometimes I forget how much I enjoy this stuff, and that leads to procrastination, and that's a problem that I think everybody faces too. And collaboration can help you get through that, because healthy competition is awesome when it's
one
healthy.
of the things that Luke said sort of relates to this.
It's not about you.
Right. It's not about you. I like to look at my collaborations like a dating situation, right? So you don't marry someone until you've dated them. You take them out to dinner. You find out if you're going to like being with this person long term. And then even when you do marry someone long term, you change. And so you have to kind of relearn each other. Or you get divorced.
There's a whole lot of Russian mail order brides out there that are.
There really are. They're called Brazilian artists, is what they're called.
They're really upset with you right now.
I know, but right. But what I find is if you approach every new collaboration like that, you take it in chunks. You do non-committal things to start with. Working together with small things, and then eventually working yourself into the long contracts. Now, having said that, I did just sign a contract with someone for over 100 pages of a graphic novel. So I had never met the guy before.
Well,
but he has a great resume. And
what side are you on, Luke?
I don't know, man. I don't know, but no, I'm definitely for this one. But it's a cool story. Once you can get that, once you've done enough collaborations, you can kind of get the sense of what you're dealing with. And the other thing is you have to know when to
Once
done.
you've ordered enough Russian mail order brides, you know what you're dealing with.
Right, and then eventually you just have to know when one of them's done. You have to know when to.
Keep in
Dojo
mind,
like this one, you have to know when to bury the hooker, I guess.
I'm on the side of no when I say,
if you think this has a happy ending, you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah. Well, no.
Let me grab the links.
It's about 50-50. I think it's about 50-50. You're going to find some collaborations that work great, and others that maybe you walk away from you weren't so happy with. But
Well, that's actually
usually
that's a pretty good success rate. I mean, we fail at everything far more often than we succeed. So
right, yeah. I had one. We did one publishing collaboration. We thought it was going to be amazing. Everybody had a role. I'm still friends with pretty much everyone that was involved with that. To be honest with you, with the exception of one guy who just, again, he's like this. These are my weaknesses. This is my strength. So we're like, okay, in this group, this is your strength. That's all you're supposed to focus on. And he did everything but that. And it's like, remember, those are your weaknesses.
yeah,
We need you to focus on your strength. and that upsetting because again, ego is, I think it gets in everybody's way, honestly.
On that
All right.
note,
On that note,
Bandito.
yeah. Let's toss it over, Dojo. Brian, if you want to start going through some stuff. Randy, we'll give you a little bit, Randall, we'll give you a little bit of time to talk about some of your stuff, and then we're going to let Luke showcase the stuff that he's been working on, because he's got lots under the belt right now.
So we're starting then with Randall's.
Yeah. Let's start with Randall's.
Okay. Very disorganized. I'm working on issue 8 right now with writer Bobby Nash, who's done some stuff for Dark Horse, and the art is still very much behind schedule, but I intend to get this thing out by summer. Issue 7 just came out, and it's my thickest one to date. See if I've got a copy of it over here somewhere. What I was kind of flattered by, whether or not Marvel Comics meant to do this, I don't know. But the cover art of my comic, issue 7, was meant to look like an older Marvel comic. So if you look at issue 10 of Ghost Rider, which came out in January, the color scheme, they went back to the same retro format that they used to have. I debuted this thing at Heroes Con, so I was kind of like, well, I should either be flattered or happy of the coincidence that if they thought enough of the book to gain the reins back from Ghost Rider. Hawk of the Orcs inspired heavily from Ghost Rider and Batman. That's what I'm working on. It's timebound.co. I could not get the com. I'm working on the US right now. But yeah, check it out. That's my link tree.
So it's impressive that you're on issue number 8. I know a lot of folks who say, I'm not going to start buying a comic until I see them at issue 4 to know that they're serious about this whole thing, which I think is, I don't know, that's a little conservative in my opinion. That's not giving them a break early on. But yeah, to be on issue 8 speaks very highly of your tenacity and dedication to this. So that's kudos to you.
Thank you. Issue 2 is the barrier. You got to sell your issue 2. Selling issue 1s, you can do that all day long, but selling issue 2, you got to have something to push that one.
You can
down.
make issue 1s all day long.
Yep.
if you can get past making issue 2, then we can talk.
Randall, there's an unfair inside joke there. Somebody accidentally got duped into printing, I don't know what, 50,000 copies of issue 1, was it?
3,000 copies
okay.
each of each title.
Yeah.
There were 9 titles.
It was
nine number ones. Arrow Comics got to do 4 of those books.
Little inside joke there.
So,
okay.
So yeah, 12,000 books just for Arrow Comics.
Yeah. Okay. So
collaboration did not go well.
On something of a positive note, one of the things that Luke alluded to just a little while ago was something he's been working on. Let's see if I can bring this up and without boomering too much. Let me go back to stream mode and add to stream. Here we go. Luke, tell us about this.
Fundmycomic.com. Okay, so here's what is the funny thing. Sometimes you find yourself working on a project that you had no intention or desire to work on. And then you fall into it. And this is what happened here. I saw all of the shadow banning that was happening. And I had just woken up from my nap and realized that the state of indie comics had changed quite a bit. Was still not only healing from my illness, but I was healing from that distribution thing that we just talked about. Mm-hmm. And my trust levels were at an all-time low. So I decided I was going to figure out how to crowdfund my own books. And so I started looking into crowdfunding and white label crowdfunding platforms, and found a couple different companies, and been through a lot of different things, and wound up connecting with some people that had bigger ideas. But all of that said, we are now really moving forward with this thing. I've learned a lot. This is one of those situations where I've had to call on people that knew a whole lot more than I do. So we had been working with a company called Surrendum. We are currently questioning that collaboration at the moment. There was a lot of overpromise, underdeliver. So during my time off in this big move, I spoke with about 2 or 3 lawyers. I spoke with bankers and people that ran big banks, and I called everyone I could and started asking questions and started learning all of the stuff that I needed to learn so that I could have a working knowledge of what it was the developers were telling me. Because, I'm talking to like 3 or 4 different developers and I have no idea what they're saying. So I bring in Todd because Todd understands what they're saying. I don't have a clue. And then sometimes as a backup, I'll bring in like 1 or 2 other guys. And I'm like, Todd, I'm just bringing them in just for me. Not for you, just for me. And so we are now to a place where we are going to be launching a crowdfunding platform for comics and games. It is going to be launching in beta with a limited number of features. There's still a lot of features that we want to add, but that was part of our deployment issue, biting off more than what I think we could chew right away. Dojo, you mentioned a smaller publisher saying, hey, I want to do all this. And you're like, yeah, that's too much. I think that's really what we've been dealing with for the last couple of months is one of our partnerships. They want to do way more than where we're at right now as far as the number of users that we're going to have. And so we have found a scalable infrastructure that is going to work for 1,000 users and can easily scale up to millions of users. So we don't have to have all of those big expensive things in place right now. We can scale it up as the site grows. So we've figured all of that junk out, which has taken us way longer than what we wanted it to. We've gotten legal stuff figured out where we've been through all of that mess. And so now we are actually in sign up again for this process. And we are going to start onboarding probably in a couple of, I hate to say it, days. We're going to start onboarding in a couple of days a select handful of people to help us in our test mode. We have a dashboard. We have an interface for people to interact with right now. And so we are in the process of testing all of that. Here in a couple of days, this page will also change again. It will go to a more permanent looking page where, this is a kind of a temporary kind of holding space for us. But we're going to be onboarding some people and running through our test modes where we create test campaigns, and we're testing all of the we're testing the security and the accuracy of all of our financial processing. We are using the same this is the fun thing. Okay, guys, so you don't realize it, but there's only a few payment processing platforms out there. And you can either build it yourself, which is very expensive and very time consuming, or you can use one of the other services that exist. We are actually using the exact same service that Lyft and Kickstarter use and IndieGoGo uses. So we're using the exact same processing that they are. Which, if you had asked me 6 months ago what that was, I would have had no idea what I was talking about. But I do now because I've found smarter people than I to show me. So we've got all of those things in place, but we now have it in a testing environment so we can actually test all of the functions, and we can tweak different features. And then we have a plan to roll out new functionality and new features as we go. Thankfully, the majority of what we want it to do is going to happen right away. So we're very excited about it and looking forward to it. And I mean, this is truly a collaborative effort for all publishers. This is for anybody that wants to be able to crowdfund without the worries of whether or not they're going to fall on the wrong side of the political norm of this season. You know, whether it be your progressive or you know, your liberal or your conservative views. We all know that the pendulum swings. I'm a libertarian, so I'm aware that I am in the middle right now. But, you know, sometimes the metrics get moved on you. And so we're seeing all these shadow bannings and people trying to cancel people. And this is an anti-cancel culture, free speech kind of platform, all about freedom of expression, all about giving publishers and creators the tools they need to be able to really operate their business the best way they can and to create an environment of trust between you and your fans and your backers, people that buy comic books, and with us. We want you to be able to trust that we've got your backs in this world too. It's not easy making comic books and games, as you guys can attest to. It is quite complicated to find a way to turn a profit. And so one of the things that we're wanting to do is not only offer this as an option, but we're also charging a much lower platform fee than our competitors are. You're still paying for the transaction fees, but all of the other platforms out there are charging a 5% platform fee. And we are wanting to do 2%, but it's looking like now with the changes that we had to make to even get this thing going, that we're going to have to start out with 3%. Hopefully be able to bring those down, but it's not going to go up for a long time because we thought, well, maybe we'd start at 2%, and after the first year, we'd have to go into 3% in order to maintain this long term with all the things that you have to take care of. There's a whole lot behind the scenes that when I first set out to do it, I had no idea. And if I knew, I probably would have quit then, but I was too stupid. And yeah, have you guys ever been that way? Like, oh yeah, if the younger me knew.
Oh my gosh.
Would have just walked away from that. Yeah.
They often ask that on Twitter and Facebook. What would you say to your younger self? It's like, I would kick his ass. That's what I would do.
Yeah, like 6 months ago. Like if I knew 6 months ago what this journey was going to be, I would have said, nah.
I have no weaknesses, so you know.
Yeah. So, but you know, I was so motivated, and there's so many people that came to me and was like, Luke, we need this, and so we did it.
You know, speaking as someone who is shadow banned right now, my campaign, unless you know the specific URL, you won't be able to find it on IndieGoGo. You'll have to have the URL to back it. And because it's been shadow banned, it's been stagnant for the last 2 months. Now
right, and it's going to be.
That could be because nobody else is interested, but I'd like to think it's because IndieGoGo shadow banned me. Otherwise, people would be buying it or backing
like
it.
right now, my campaign on IndieGoGo it's just unpopular. It's not shadow banned. So I was shadow banned for a while. But I've also found out that because I was working on starting Fund My Comic, no one wanted to back my other projects on the other platforms. And I'm like, well, that kind of hurts me, you know, because I still need to make money making these books because I've already paid for these books. So I still need to publish these books while we're working on Fund My Comic. So, but we were able to make a couple of connections that we needed to and get a couple of things happening. And so still holding out. The Surrendum can get their stuff together, but in the meantime, we will have a functioning site by a trusted collaborator. We're not going to be as vocal about our collaborator in this one as we were before, because this is more of a, I'm just going to pay you and you're going to come in and you're going to make sure this works and that it's secure. And so
Almost like hiring a vendor more than collaboration.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's basically just hiring a vendor. So yeah, that's really what it is. So yeah,
for
we're
the
working
site-
on that.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No.
For the site Fund My Comic, one of the things that you didn't see when I had it up on screen was that there's a place to enter your email and, you know, potentially be either one of his beta testers or on down the line, you know, just give him your information so that he can continue to provide updates for you. Now, the reason you didn't see that is because I already did that. And then it switches to telling you we're excited to send
Right.
you the next update. So
Right,
yeah, definitely go to fundmycomic.com and sign up, give him your email address so that you can continue to learn when Luke and his team are ready to launch this, which
Yeah.
sounds like it's really soon.
It's very, very soon. Also join our Discord. So we do have a Discord for the Fund My Comic community. So we'll be communicating in there and letting people know we will have an outage soon. So there will be at one point when we flip everything over from the landing page to the actual page where people can start to, and at that point anyone can sign up, but we're going to be very selective on launching campaigns. So, but before we make that switch, we're gonna have a number of people come in and create test campaigns just so we can make sure it works. And then once we flip the switch, we're going to have them ready to they're going to have those campaigns not in a test environment anymore. So
in
that,
order to join the Discord, what you do is you go to the fundmycomic.com and scroll all the way to the bottom. And there's a button there.
Yep.
That says join the Discord.
Yep.
All right, very cool. It has a little bit more than an hour now. It has been a great discussion. We learned some new things from our guest panelists and our special guests, and we thank you both for being here. We appreciate your time. Of course, we thank the folks who were with us in the chat. You always make it fun and funny. We appreciate you. If you're watching on the replay, what's that?
Fantastic chat today.
Oh yeah, very lively and participatory. We love that. And here at Incendiary, thank you, Bandito and Blue, for being with us tonight.
You're not going to cut out my final comments again.
That's right. Yes, you've got final comments to give us.
See, and I know when you're going to. I know when you're going to do it. I'm like ready for it now.
You would have gotten away from it with it if it weren't for that meddling kid.
I tell you.
All right, drop it on us so we can.
Well, okay, so we're talking
them the
about
wisdom.
collaborations. When it comes to working together, we all jump in with the highest of expectations, the most exciting goals, the best of intentions, and truly, I believe everyone involved in a project wants to see success in abundance. But egos, pride, delusions, flaky commitments, and greed can often take the purest and strongest of collaborations and break its legs before it can ever put its best foot forward. And yet, every now and then, a gem appears. A campaign arises with the names of peers, not hired guns, promoting and producing for the fans entertainment, not drama. Now, as a nerd, I look at what video games has taught me. We can beat our heads against the wall trying to defeat a level, and we'll make attempt after attempt trying to beat some hellish boss. But once we beat it once, that boss, we never struggle the same way with it again, which is like life sometimes. We don't always know how to navigate production relationships, and we may fail at certain things more than we succeed. But in the end, once we do it all once we pull everything together, everyone falls into their roles and purpose, then magic happens. We find we are better collaboratively, not simply covering each other's weaknesses, but also raising the bar for each other's strengths, pushing to a new plateau we could have never reached individually. And even if we become bitter through the abuse of egos, broken promises, and our projects falling apart, when we do find those people worth working with, we can find that we can learn to love again.
Oh my God! You ended on love again. Oh jeez.
I wish I had that song queued up, and that would have been perfect.
When he said every now and then, I got that '80s song in my head.
I thought that was beautiful. I feel bad laughing.
Yeah, that was gorgeous.
Oh, he did that on purpose. No problem, Randall. Listen, everybody, thank you so much for being here, and we hope you join us next week on Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Again, thank you.